Okay, everyone, please be seated. Then we can start the agenda item. I think the quorum has been reached. Okay, let me start the agenda item. Agenda item 36, Trade and Conservation and Management of Deepwater Elasmobranchs Centroporidae SPP. The documents submitted by the Secretariat and report on the progress in preparing the technical document on workshop on deepwater elasmobranchs. The Animal Committee is invited to consider the recommendation in paragraph 24. Now I open the floor to the members. North American region.
Thank you, Chair. The North American region notes the information presented in the current document and appreciates the Secretary's progress on implementation of Decision 20.203 to date. The region acknowledges the conservation concerns for deepwater elasmobranchs, given the life history characteristics and demands for sequel elasmobranchs. Therefore, the region supports directing the Secretariat, pending external funding, to contact appropriate experts to prepare technical documents as called for in Decision 20.203A. We are grateful for the financial support offered by the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland for partial funding for the technical workshops. The North American region would not necessarily oppose the conveying of workshops under Decision 20.203 paragraph B should the remaining external funding become available. However, in light of the current workload and priorities, the North American region does not feel there is sufficient justification to allocate limited resources to convene either a technical workshop or a series of workshops, even if via virtual platform focused on Stenophoridae species at this time, particularly given the background documents intent to inform the workshops have not yet been developed. Thus, the North American region supports a phased approach that prioritizes the collation of verifiable data prior to convening any workshop or future efforts. The collated data could be used to address conservation and management of these 16 Centrophoridae species under Resolution 12.6 Rev Comp 18 on the conservation and management of sharks, and to inform work to more effectively address implementation of all sharks and rays included in Appendix 2 of CITES. This could inform subsequent recommendations by the Animals Committee to the Standing Committee, including proceedings with the consideration of the conveying of the workshop at a later date if deemed necessary and appropriate. Finally, furthermore, Decision 20.203B(i) calls for considering the conservation priorities and management needs related to trade of non-listed deep-water elasmobranchs, and there are already extensive ongoing discussions related to B(i) for sharks and rays in general. So North American region would prefer to prioritize the work on the CITES listed species. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, North American region. Now, European representative, please.
Thank you, Chair. We thank the Secretariat for preparing this comprehensive document, and we welcome the phased approach proposed by the Secretariat, beginning with the implementation of the newly listed Centrophoridae species. Given the significant knowledge gaps that remain for many species, together with challenges relating to species identification, trade monitoring, and taxonomy, we consider this to be a practical and proportionate approach. We also welcome the planned technical workshop and encourage continued collaboration with relevant experts, RFMOs, and range states in developing the background documents. So we would support the recommendations in the document. Thank you.
Thank you, European. Now I invite observer parties. I would like to invite UK. UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to thank the Secretariat for preparing this document, providing details on the progress made so far to implement these decisions. We note the information presented in document 36 and would encourage parties to continue sharing any relevant information or data they hold on Centrophoridae species. We are supportive of the scope of the background documents and proposed technical workshops initially being focused on CITES-listed deep-water elasmobranchs, especially when considering that full funding is still to be acquired and the tight timelines involved, noting that Decision 20.203D asks for the findings and recommendations from the workshop to be submitted to AC35. Furthermore, we would highlight one of the key themes identified by the Secretariat from parties' responses to notification number 2026/45, detailed in paragraph 8A of AC 34.37, which relates to parties' concerns over implementing the Centrophoridae listing on Appendix 2. This supports the necessity of preparing for and holding the proposed workshops prior to AC 35 and the Centrophoridae listing coming into effect on the 5th of June 2027. We would also like to quickly raise a point in relation to Decision 20.203, paragraph BI, which directs the workshop to discuss the conservation priorities and management needs related to the trade of non-CITES listed deep-water species, and consider how potential CITES measures could complement existing fisheries management measures. The supply chains of meat and liver oil from listed deep-water species often contain parts and derivatives of non-listed species. As an example, the liver oil of Centrophoridae species can be mixed with the liver oil of other deep-water species, and they are often caught and retained together in the same fisheries. This is an additional element for consideration for the implementation of these listings, and we believe it is worth considering in the background documents and discussions at the workshops. Thank you.
Thank you, UK. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Japan welcomes this document and appreciates the effort by the Secretariat. Japan has two general comments. First, given the Centrophoridae SPP has just been listed in COP20 and it has not entered into force, the priority of future works should be placed on the listed Centrophoridae SPP. Non-listed species are of low priority at this stage. Second, Japan would like to ask the Secretariat to consider duplication and synergy with the future works under the new recommendations made at the Agenda 37, Sharks and Rays. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Netherlands, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to thank the Secretariat for preparing document AC 34/36 on the trade, conservation and management of deep-water elasmobranchs, Centrophoridae SPP. The document gives extensive background information for the implementation of Decision 20.203. We support the recommendations as noted in paragraph 24, including the phased approach to the preparation of background documents, and we align with the previous speakers that this is very important. The implementation of this decision will be important for parties to effectively implement the COP20 CITES Appendix 2 listing of Centrophoridae, including making NDS for the first time and before June next year, as other speakers have said. So a timely approach would be very much valuable. We therefore encourage parties to engage in the process and trust that further funding will be found to carry out the work proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Netherlands. Indonesia.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia recognized that implementing these new listings present considerable challenges. In particular, Indonesia continues to face technical difficulties in distinguishing shark liver oil products, not only at the species level, but even at the family or order level. In this regard, Indonesia would welcome collaboration with parties that have developed best practices and experience in species identification and would appreciate technical guidance from the Secretariat to support effective implementation of the new CITES requirements. Such cooperation would greatly assist parties in addressing the technical challenges associated with these listings. In the meantime, Indonesia has already initiated preliminary studies on the potential occurrence, utilization, and trade of Centroporidae species, as well as on the technical requirements and practical approaches needed for future implementation. And lastly, Indonesia also echo with Japan intervention. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Australia thanks the Secretariat for AC 34 Doc 36 on deepwater elasmobranchs. Australia wanted to take the opportunity to update the Committee on Australia's progress towards implementation of the Appendix 2 listings. Australia has contracted traffic to investigate, among other things, trade of Centrophoridae species in Australia. This includes an overview of the scale, patterns and trends of imports and exports, businesses involved in trade, and identification of data gaps. Australia's CITES Scientific Authority welcomes and encourages engagement from other parties that may be doing similar work or which may be contacted as part of this work. Where possible, Australia intends to share knowledge generated from this work with CITES. Australia has also contracted expert advice to inform development of non-detriment findings for Centrophoridae species harvested in Australian waters, which will be undertaken using the CITES eDNF tool. Australia intends to undertake public consultation around development of NDFs for Centrophoridae species and will make NDFs publicly available. Australia encourages parties to engage in the process and share relevant information in accordance with recommendation in paragraph 24B and looks forward to contributing further to the development of documents and technical workshops noted in paragraph 24C. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. Lastly, Oman.
Thank you, Chair. Oman recognizes the biological vulnerability of this group and the importance of preparing parties for the implementation of the Appendix 2 listing, which will enter into effect on 5th June 2027. Oman's national shark checklist includes a limited number of Centrophoridae species, including Isodon, Antromarginatus, and Profundorum. However, these species are not recorded in the national fisheries and market list. This reflects the nature of shark and raised fisheries in Oman, where more than 95% of the fisheries are artisanal and do not target deep water habitats. There is currently no non-direct fisheries, regular landing, local consumption, or organized trade of this family in Oman. There is also no national trade in deep water shark liver oil or squalene derived from this group. Oman supports the preparation of technical background documents and a phased technical workshop process with a focus on practical tools for species identification, traceability, catch reporting, and NDF preparation. Oman also emphasizes that future recommendations should take into account the situation of parties where Centrophoridae species may be recorded scientifically but are not part of active fisheries or trade. Oman remains committed to implementing CITES requirements for listing marine species and will apply national regulatory procedures, including NDFs and legal acquisition verification, should any future trade involve Centrophoridae species be proposed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Oman. Now I give the floor to the two observer organizations. Okay. Concerning agenda item 36, I conclude that Animal Committee notes the present document and agree to support a fast approach for the preparation of background document of the technical workshop, starting with the tools approach to effectively implement CITES for the Centroporidae species included in Appendix 2. Seeing no objection, it is agreed and agenda item is closed. Thank you. Next agenda item 41 in Queen Kong, Strombus gigas. I would invite Secretariat to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair. This document represents a progress report on the implementation of Decision 19.234 on Queen Kong, with thanks to financial support from Switzerland, the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Activities include development of non-detriment finding guidance on Queen Kong, delivery of regional training workshops, collection of information from range states through a questionnaire, and progress on a Queen Kong genetics project implemented in collaboration with GCFI, or the Gulf and Caribbean Fisheries Institute, and the University of Rhode Island. The document informs that Honduras, Jamaica, and St. Lucia have been selected to receive targeted assistance to apply the new NDF guidance on Queen Kong, while other interested states that have indicated their interest in testing the guidance will receive technical advice as needed. The committee is invited to note the progress made and to encourage any remaining range states that have not yet completed the questionnaire to do so. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. Now I open the floor for the members. Observer parties. Netherlands, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. The Kingdom of the Netherlands would like to thank the Secretariat and our fellow range states for the continuing work being done under the Convention for the Protection of and the Sustainable Trade in Queen Conch, or CARCO, as we call it. There's no commercial fishing or exports from our 6 Caribbean islands of our kingdom, and the species is locally protected. Nevertheless, we experience challenges, and strengthening the collective enforcement effort is a priority to us. Concerning the Queen Conch genetics project, all 6 islands will participate and samples will be collected. The Kingdom would like to reach out to the Secretariat to see how we can support this important work. Thank you.
Thank you, Netherlands. I give the floor to Japan.
Thank you, Chair. Japan welcomes this document, particularly the point that the Secretariat will support NDF by range states. Japan looks forward to the future update, contributing to even better conservation and sustainable use of this species. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. I give the floor to the members, Central, South America, and Caribbean.
Gracias, presidente. Como región de Centroamérica, Sudamérica y Caribe, queremos agradecer todo el apoyo y el esfuerzo realizados por los países del área de distribución y esperamos que esto conlleve a una mejor conservación para esta especie. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Now I invite observer organization, 2 observer organization. Thank you. Concerning agenda item 41, I conclude that Animal Committee notes the information contained in the document AC 34 Doc 41 and encourage any remaining range states that have not yet completed the questionnaire to do so. Seeing no objection, I think we close the agenda. Thank you. Agenda item 40, sea cucumber, Stichopodidae and Holoturidae, SPP. The document submitted by Secretariat report on progress in preparing the background documents and technical workshop on the sea cucumber in the families Stichopodidae and Holoturidae. The Animal Committee is invited to consider recommendation in paragraph 27. I open the floor for the committee members. European.
Thank you, Chair. We thank the Secretariat for this comprehensive document and welcome the proposed thematic clusters to guide the preparation of the background documents and the technical workshop. As many parties continue to face significant challenges in preparing NDFs for sea cucumbers, particularly where biological data are limited, we specifically support the inclusion of work on NDFs in data-limited contexts, including the development of practical tools. In this regard, we would like to highlight that a party in our region has recently developed an electronic NDF tool for sea cucumbers, building on the experience gained with the Shark eNDF tool. We believe this resource could make a valuable contribution to the work envisaged under thematic cluster little b, little I, and could serve as an initial practical tool for parties. We would therefore welcome exploring whether it ultimately be made available via the CITES website for wider use by parties. We support the recommendations contained in the document and look forward to the outcomes of the technical workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, European. Now I give the floor to the observer parties. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia welcomes the Secretariat document and support the proposed thematic areas for the technical workshop. Indonesia appreciates that our national experience on NDFs, quota management and traceability and species identification has been reflected in the document. We have implemented positive NDFs for listed fish species, national catch and export quotas, minimum size limit, and an electronic permitting system to strengthen traceability. Indonesia agrees that key priorities should include practical guidance on NDFs for data-limited fisheries, species identification of proposed products, traceability, and capacity building for range states. Therefore, Indonesia looks forward to continuing collaboration with Secretariat, FAO, and other parties to support the effective implementation of the decision. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. Mexico, next.
Gracias, señor presidente. Buenas tardes. México agradece a la Secretaría el documento y en general considera adecuados los grupos temáticos recomendados en el documento para la realización del taller técnico. Sin embargo, queremos proponer que se incluya la elaboración de factores de conversión como parte de los contenidos del eje 3 sobre identificación y trazabilidad y se invite a los participantes del taller a compartir fotografías de los productos por especie, por ejemplo, de especímenes secos para facilitar el desarrollo de los materiales de identificación. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Mexico. Tanzania.
Thank you, Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania supports the Secretariat's effort to improve implementation of CITES provision relating to sea cucumbers. Tanzania agrees that further guidance on non-detrimental findings, population monitoring, species identification, legal acquisition findings, traceability, enforcement, and institutional coordination will strengthen sustainable trade in CITES-listed marine species. However, Tanzania emphasizes that implementation should remain practical, science-based, and proportionate to the capacity of parties. The development of model NDFs and technical guidance should be voluntary and sufficiently flexible to accommodate national circumstances. Tanzania further stresses that successful implementation will require sustained financial resources, technical assistance, technology transfer, and capacity building for developing coastal states. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanzania. I will come to Japan and France. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Japan welcomes this document and proposed the way forward. As the range state of the sea cucumber species, Japan will engage and contribute to the future works toward better conservation and sustainable use of these sea cucumber species. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. France, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Alors, je voulais me mettre dans la ligne des précédents partis qui se sont exprimés. Nous soutenons les recommandations de ce document. Je tenais également à soutenir la remarque du Mexique sur l'inclusion de facteurs de conversion à travailler dans l'axe 3 pour le workshop. Et je voulais enfin rebondir sur la réflexion de la Tanzanie qui me paraît tout à fait juste. On doit pouvoir réaliser des ACNP d'une manière pragmatique et simple, et c'est d'ailleurs dans cet état d'esprit qu'a été réalisé l'outil électronique qui a été mentionné par la région Europe. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Franz. Now I invite observer organizations. Sea Cucumber Association, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon and congratulations on your election as Chair. This is the first time taking the floor. We thank our host country, the Secretariat, and your work as Chair. I speak on behalf of the Australian Sea Cucumber members through the Queensland Sea Cucumber Association, which has been sustainably fishing sea cucumber for over 35 years. From a practical perspective, we would contribute to the proposed technical workshop. Australian industry, in conjunction with regulatory authorities, are leading the work in scientific biology and ecosystems research on CITES-listed sea cucumber species, with industry spending around $1 million Australian a year in this research in conjunction with established academic institutions and experts, which include development of an AI software program for identification of CITES-listed species, biomass surveys, stock assessments, and thousands of genetic samples. In Australia, contrary to academic misrepresentations, there is no industrial harvesting. In Queensland, we have 2 vessels with a maximum of 4 divers in the water at any one time. We cover 1/1000th of the fishery every year, which does not include the 37% green full closure zones. All of our CITES-listed sea cucumber species have received non-detriment findings from Australia's CITES Authority. This is after a rigorous review that took over 2 years with the imposition of stringent conditions. We believe our industry can add significant value to the to assist the requirements of other range states in preparing information for consideration by the appropriate CITES body. For instance, recent World's Best Practice published stock assessments for Queensland Australia fishery based on physical biomass surveys for black and white teat fish showed that unfished biomass median for white teat fish was 86% of the unfished biomass. For black teat fish, it was 80%, and in the south part of the fishery, 100%. We have also, to the point of France and Mexico, just recently published conversion factors for all of the CITES-listed species, which include up to 100 species in that conversion from wet to dry. Queensland Sea Cucumber Industry stands ready to provide practical on-ground assistance to any technical workshop on CITES, similar to the inclusion of industry in the 2004 workshop. Also, it would be beneficial if the meeting was held in and around Australia to make it more practical and cost-effective for industry and experts to attend. We yield the floor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sea Cucumber Association. Seeing as no asking the floor, then I will come to the conclusions. Concerning agenda item 41, I conclude the Animal Committee notes document AC 34 Doc 40 agrees on the thematic cluster proposed in the paragraph 27p with the addition conversion factor raised by Mexico and supported by France as the basis for the preparations of the background document and discussion at the technical workshop on sea cucumber. See no objection, it is agreed, this agenda item is closed. Thank you. Item agenda 43, periodic reviews of species included in Appendix 1 and 2. I invite Secretariat to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair. The document provides an update to the Animals Committee on the periodic review of fauna species included in the Appendices 1 and 2 in compliance with paragraph 7 of Resolution Con 14.8 Rev Cop 20. The Secretariat received the periodic review of Chilodina mccordia, published as an information document, AC 34 Inf 6. The Animals Committee could consider sharing comments on the document with Indonesia and inviting Indonesia to submit the periodic review as a working document for consideration at AC 35. The recommendations for consideration by the Animals Committee include addressing non-substantive cross-referencing errors in the resolution and encouraging range states to provide updates on the status of ongoing reviews, complete outstanding reviews, and volunteer to undertake reviews for species for which no volunteers have come forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I invite the members, Oceania.
Thank you, Chair. Oceania thanks the Secretariat for the preparation of the present document. Undertaking periodic reviews of animal and plant species listed in the appendices is an important process. These reviews can help ensure that the appendices remain current and up to date, supporting the effective and efficient implementation of the Convention. In that regard, I support the proposal to correct the cross-reference contained in Resolution Con 14.8 Rev Cop 19. The proposed amendment appears to be minor, administrative in nature, and will assist in improving clarity and consistency. I also support the removal of species selected for review from COP 15 to COP 17 and COP 17 to COP 19, review periods where no party appears willing to undertake the reviews. Finally, Oceania supports the Secretariat's efforts to engage with range states that have expressed an interest in undertaking reviews, as well as those range states associated with species for which no volunteers have come forward. Oceania thanks the Secretariat for its continued efforts in coordinating and supporting this important work in collaboration with parties, while also supporting the implementation of ResComp 14.8 Rev Cop 19. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Oceania. North American region representative, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The North American region also underscores the importance of periodic review as a core process of the Convention to ensure that species are in the right appendix according to their conservation trade status, and appreciates the voluntary approach initiated wherein range states volunteer to do this. We also recognize that there may be delays in completing reviews, which consequently create a challenge for the Animals Committee. It is difficult to determine if the review remains pending or should be removed from the process. For example, at the previous joint meeting of the Animals and Plants Committee, India proposed Semnopithecus prima be removed from the periodic review process. However, the review remains listed as ongoing in Appendix 1 to the present document. We cannot determine if this review remains ongoing or if the review has ceased. We encourage engagement in ongoing species reviews and welcome updates on progress as well as submission of completed reviews to AC35. The submission by Indonesia of AC34 IMPDOC 6 represents a review in the form of a proposal to amend appendices for Chelidina mccordi that we recommend be submitted as a working document to AC35 so that it can be considered by the Animals Committee following the process in Res Comp 14.8 Rev COP 20, paragraph 3, little e. The North American region is also concerned in the Secretariat's review of source and purpose of trade in Appendix 1 listed species. There is indication of multiple records of Appendix 1 specimens that have source codes incompatible with commercial trade, notably for trade in live specimens of Era macao. The convention notes that trade in specimens of Appendix 1 species must be subject to particular scrutiny to prevent detrimental impacts on wild populations and must only be authorized in exceptional circumstances. Reconciliation of source codes among documents is important, and irregularities in trade in Appendix 1 species are typically a result of implementation challenges, and as such, the North American region recommends that they be referred to the Standing Committee for consideration in its ongoing discussion regarding provisions related to the trade in specimens of animals and plants not of wild source and ongoing compliance considerations. Thank you.
Thank you, North American region. Then Central, South American and Caribbean.
Gracias, presidente, y gracias a la Secretaría por haber preparado este documento. Tras realizar consultas con Brasil, la región está de acuerdo con la recomendación contenida en el apartado B del párrafo 19 de excluir del proceso de revisión periódica a las especies Cacajao melanocephalus, Saginus martinsi y Pionopsita pileata, seleccionadas durante el periodo comprendido entre la COP15 y la COP17. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Now, Asia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We thank the Secretariat for preparing this document, and we support the recommendations in the document. We also appreciate the responses provided by parties regarding the sources and purposes of trade in Appendix 1 listed species. Nevertheless, we have concerns as to whether this issue should be discussed under the current agenda item. Furthermore, we do not support the inclusion of illegal trade data in the periodical review process after COP21. The annex to the resolution COP 14.8 sets out a clear protocol for the preparation of such a review, and in accordance with that protocol, only legal trade data should be taken into account. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Asia. Nomenclature, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And I thank the Secretariat for this document that helps us track the uneven progress of this long-term process. For completeness' sake, I would like to add an additional outcome to Annex 1D. In the first row, concerning the turtle Cora galbinifrons and its subspecies, the adoption of proposals to transfer Cora burretti and Cora picturata to Appendix 1 at COP18 is noted. I would like to add that Cora galbinifrons itself was also transferred to Appendix 1 at COP19 by adoption of Proposal 26 there. With regard to the periodic review of the roti snakeneck turtle, Chelidina mccordi, noted in the documents and other interventions, I would like to congratulate Indonesia for a very comprehensive and information-rich review, and I look forward to supporting the next steps in CITES for this charismatic yet severely threatened species. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, nomenclators, please. Now I invite observer parties. UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We agree with the Secretary's recommendation to request the Standing Committee to consider the non-substantive errors in ResConf 14.8. And we also would like to congratulate Indonesia for their work on the periodic review of Chelodina McCordy. And we support their proposal to put forward a proposal to COP21 for the transfer of the species from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1, as in our view, the species does indeed meet the criteria A1 and A2 in Annex 1 of ResCom 924. We also agree with the recommendations to reach out to the parties that volunteer to undertake the reviews in paragraphs 12A to D to encourage them to provide updates to AC 35, noting the intervention by the Central and South American Caribbean representative that the species that have been undertaken to Brazil should be deleted. So we agree with that as well. And we also agreed to invite range states to volunteer to conduct the reviews for Ovis jubata, Pteropus pilosus, and the Seychelles population of Falcon newtoni. Regarding the periodic review of source and purpose codes of trade in Appendix 1 species, we also noted with concern the pattern of trade observed in Aramacau, wild specimens of Aramacau. And we support the recommendation by the North America representative to bring this matter to the Standing Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, UK. Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. Solo para informar al Comité de Fauna que México continúa avanzando en la revisión periódica de Unio tampicoensis tecomatensis y estará presentando resultados en la siguiente reunión del Comité de Fauna en 2027. Gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. Now, Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia would like to thank the Secretariat for preparing document SE 34-43. We note that the periodic review for the Roti Island snake-neck turtle or Celodina mccordy remains ongoing, with Indonesia serving as the reviewing party. However, as it was finalized after the deadline for working documents, we appreciate its publication as an information document, namely AC34 Inf 6. Through this document, Indonesia presents an updated evaluation of the critical conservation status, trade, and management of the species. Based on our comprehensive review, Indonesia recommends transferring Celodina mccordy from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1, as the wild population is extremely small and highly threatened. Furthermore, because Celodina mccordy is currently the only CITES listed species within its genus, it faces a severe risk of illegal trade and laundering through non-listed look-alike congeners. Therefore, Indonesia also proposed that all other species within the genus Celodina be listed in Appendix 2 under the look-alike criteria to ensure effective enforcement and monitoring. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. Colombia, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. Solo para mencionar que Colombia está en el proceso de revisión de la especie Ramphastus vitellinus citrolaemus, a pesar de las restricciones económicas, y esperamos presentarlo en el siguiente Comité de Fauna. Gracias.
Thank you, Colombia. Now I give the floor to the observer organization. Kenya, before Kenya first.
Thank you, Chair. Kenya appreciates the work done by the Secretariat in presenting this document. And as Kenya is one of the countries that has responded to the queries that had been asked, and the Secretariat presents it in the paragraph 16 to 19 on the issues of pan-troglodytes, the chimpanzees. We believe that with this and the responses given and the analysis given by the Secretariat, we agree with the recommendations of the Secretariat. as provided in paragraph 19. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. UNEP WCMC, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to the amendments provided by parties in Annex 2 to the document, UNEP WCMC would like to confirm that we are working to address these in the CITES trade database. Further details may be required during this process, and we will reach out to parties as necessary to ensure that the CITES trade database is as accurate as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I conclude that Animal Committee agrees to the recommendation in the paragraph 19 with the recommendation B amended to read, agrees that the following species selected for the review during the COP15 to COP17 and COP17 to COP19 review period, referred in the paragraph 12A to D, should be removed from the process. Cacajau melanocephalus, Saguinus martinsi, and Pionopsita pileata from Brazil. And the following two additional recommendations. Agree to refer the matter relating to the source and proposed code in the reported trade in ARA Macau to the Standing Committee for the consideration. And F, invite Indonesia to consider the comment made to the plenary decision on the document AC34, information document, and submit in a working group document in the 35th meeting of the Animal Committee. Seeing no objection, I think I close this agenda. Thank you. Thank you. Now we come to the compendium, SC34 compendium. There are several agenda here. Agenda item 22, definition of the term appropriate and acceptable destination. Agenda item 27, joint CITES CMS African Carnivore Initiative. Agenda item 30, conversion parameter for pangolin, Manis SPP. Agenda item 32, songbird trade and conservation management, Passeriformis SPP. And agenda item 38, hosting the shark ENDF tool and CITES on the CITES website. SE34 compendium provide a consolidated progress report prepared by the CITES Secretariat on the implementation of the selected Conference of Parties COP20 decisions that are directed to the Secretariat and Animal Committee. The compendium covers the following agenda items. Little a, role of CITES in reducing risk of the future zoonotic disease emerge associated with the international wildlife trade, which was already presented in Wednesday. B, definition of the term appropriate and acceptable destination. C, CITES CMS African Carnivore Initiative. D, conversion parameter for pangolin, Manis SPP. E, songbird trade and conservation management, Passeriformis SPP. F, hosting the shark ENDF tool on the CITES website. It highlights the Secretariat's effort to advance work through the collaboration with the parties, other multilateral environmental agreements, intergovernmental organizations, and technical partners, while emphasizing that progress on many activities remain dependent on the availability of the external financial resources and technical expertise. Several initiatives are currently in preparatory stage, including the development of guidance, notification to parties, technical workshop, online capacity building activities, and information sharing mechanism. Rather than seeking decision for the committee, the document serves primarily as an information update, allowing members to take stock of ongoing work since COP20, to monitor progress on the activities that will continue during the current intersessional period. The committee is invited simply to take note for this update. I open the floor for the committee. Observer parties? Okay, nomenclature, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. In the context of document 30, conversion parameters for pangolin skills, the Secretariat in its ongoing work may like to take note of recent announcements in the scientific literature of the potential recognition of 2 additional species of Asian pangolins, Manis mysteria and Manis indo-burmanica, which may be alternative name for Manis pentadactyla aurita. This is noted in Annex 1 of document 45. These names are still under some debate, whether they represent taxonomically valid species or not, and we expect to be better informed by AC 35. Nevertheless, this indicates a need for broad sampling of pangolin scale weights in different regions of Asia, and an emphasis on the very careful determination of the geographic origin of sampled scales. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, nomenclator. Europe, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to make a comment on agenda item 32, songbird trade and conservation management. We would like to thank the Secretariat for preparing the entire compendium document, of course, and we note the progress made. On the decisions relating to songbirds, we would like to refer to paragraph 25 of the Comp Doc, which relates to the implementation of decision 20.191.b. And the Secretariat notes that making such information available envisioned in that decision on the CITES website will require external funding. However, we note that the Secretariat will also issue a notification to the parties and other relevant stakeholders later this year in accordance with Decision 19.192.A, and any responses to the notification will be made available to the Animals Committee. We note that having the information from Decision 20.191.B available on the website might make the information easier to find as time progresses and creates an opportunity for continued information to be added. However, we wonder if the collection of information through two parallel processes really is the most efficient way forward, especially considering the limited resources available. The cost of $11,900 does not come across as the best balance between costs and benefit, especially not knowing yet what the responses to the notification will be. Therefore, it might make more sense to include Decision 20.191.B in the notification that will be published and have all the information in one place in the document that will be prepared for AC 35. And then at AC 35, we can revisit the decision point B on making the information available on the CITES webpage when we have a better understanding of the information coming in from parties and other stakeholders as responses to the notification. We believe this is a more efficient use of our limited resources. I have sent a suggested recommendation to the Secretariat, but I will now read it out loud. So we would suggest the following recommendation. The Animals Committee agrees that the request for information on songbirds in Decision 19.191.B shall be included in the notification to the parties envisioned in Decision 19.192.A and be included in the report to AC 35. The question on making the information available on the CITES website in line with Decision 20.192B will be revisited at AC 35. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Yero. I give the floor to the parties. USA, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As it relates to item number 22, definition of the term appropriate and acceptable definitions, the United States would like to offer a further comment. The United States supports a science-based and flexible definition that facilitates legal international trade in live animals while opposing expansive or ideologically driven interpretations. A restrictive international definition runs headlong into core United States private property tenets. Citizens, zoos, and facilities that lawfully acquire and hold CITES-listed specimens under existing U.S. permitting, which is substantial, should not have their ownership, custody, or transfer rights subordinated to conditions imposed by a foreign state or an international body. We oppose any narrowing of the definition of appropriate and acceptable destinations for live specimens of Appendix 2 listed wildlife. I reiterate that the United States supports clear, objective definition of appropriate and acceptable destinations that prioritizes scientific, non-detriment findings, promotes proper animal welfare, and the sovereign rights of range states, not subjective ethical judgments from groups that seek to ban live trade altogether. Overly broad or vague definitions harm American interests by restricting legitimate movements for conservation breeding programs, zoos, and ranching operations that generate economic incentives for species protection and create jobs in the United States wildlife sector. Claims that only in situ destinations are acceptable ignore the success of the American model of sustainable use and captive management, which has supported numerous species, while prohibitionist approaches have failed to curb illegal trade and poaching. We oppose any interpretation that effectively seeks to impose a trade ban under the guise of welfare, as this undermines CITES' core purpose of regulating sustainable trade and gives transnational criminal networks an unfair advantage. Legal, well-regulated movements of live animals benefit both source and destination countries when based on science rather than ideology. We oppose expanding the Animals Committee's exceptional circumstances review under decisions 18.117 and 18.119 into a de facto veto over range states' live specimen trade and wildlife management decisions for Appendix 2 species. All parties should honor and respect determinations made by range states on the suitability of a receiving institution rather than substituting the judgment of importing or third-party parties. Regulated live trade generates conservation revenue and is a legitimate population management tool for range states. Any definition should preserve this option, not foreclose it by default. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, USA. Tanzania.
Thank you, sir. The United Republic of Tanzania welcomes the progress made by the Secretariat in implementing the decisions adopted at COP20 and also supports the recommendation that the Animal Committee to take a note on the updates presented on Doc AC 34, COP7. Tanzania appreciates ongoing efforts to strengthen international cooperations on wildlife health, appropriate destinations for live specimens, African carnivore conservation, pangolin conservation, songbird management, and the development of the Shark NDF tool. Chair, Tanzania wishes to emphasize that implementation of these initiatives should remain practical, science-based, and proportionate to the capacities of the parties. Additional technical requirements should be accompanied by adequate financial, technical, and capacity building support for developing countries. Tanzania further welcomes continued collaboration through joint CITES, CMS African Carnivore initiatives, and encourage sustained donor support for its implementation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tanzania. Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much, Chair. Zimbabwe strongly aligns itself with the submission by the United States. Chair, Zimbabwe is one of the countries that has always had a problem with the current definition of appropriate and acceptable, with specific reference to its restrictive nature, which we've always viewed as unfair. Though we look forward to the proposed notification on the guidance documents with regards to the import and export of elephants. A similar notification, Chair, was published in 2023, and I think it's only New Zealand and Zimbabwe which responded, and we don't see any significant change to the responses that are likely to come out of that notification, because we are not trading elephants because of that simple definition. So we are basically using the guidance documents. So the documents are there, but Secretary may confirm to us if there's anyone using these specific guidance documents with regards to live elephant trade. So that notification will come out, but the response won't be different from the 2023 response that you got. So we strongly feel this definition in future, it needs to be objectively revised so that it promotes sustainable trade rather than broadly restricting international trade. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Now I invite Observer Organization, Born Free Foundation.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of 9 observer organisations. The details have been provided to the Secretariat. In relation to Agenda Item 22, we urge the Animals Committee to ensure that forthcoming work on standards for facilities housing captive live animals is robust and based on the best available scientific knowledge of each species' biological, behavioural and social requirements. Organisations such as the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries, the European Alliance of Rescue Centres and Sanctuaries, and the Pan-African Sanctuary Alliance provide gold standard models for facilities housing wild animals. The UK's revised standards of modern zoo practice, which enter into force in 2027, offer a welfare-centred regulatory example. Sharing such examples will help the committee understand how health, welfare and safety risks can be better managed and where additional CITES guidance may be needed. We encourage the committee to use information gathered through the notification to develop clear precautionary recommendations that reflect best practice and ensure the highest standards for any facility holding live CITES listed animal species. This work is essential in order to safeguard welfare, reduce disease risks, including potential zoonotic pathogen emergence, and support parties in meeting their obligations under the Convention. And with your indulgence, in relation to agenda item 27, we urge the Animals Committee to recommend that relevant independent experts and observer organisations should be invited to the third meeting of the African Carnivores Initiative Range States and be given the opportunity to engage in the development and implementation of its programme of work. We also encourage the Animals Committee to recommend inclusion of African populations of striped hyena, that's hyena, in the African Carnivores Initiative. The species was added to CITES Appendix 2 at COP20 and to CMS Appendices 1 and 2 at CMS COP15 earlier this year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Bonprix Foundation. Okay. I will ask Secretariat to read the conclusion. Please, the members to see the conclusion that will be read out by the Secretariat. Secretariat, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and I hope I have managed to catch all the comments here. The conclusion will be that the committee notes the information in AC 33 compendium concerning agenda items 22, 27, 30, 32, and 38, and the comments made by the nomenclature specialist on agenda item 30, the comments made by Born Free Foundation on agenda item 27, 22, and 32, Zimbabwe on agenda item 20, Zimbabwe and the United States of America on agenda item 22, the general comments from Tanzania, and the comments from Europe on agenda item 32. In addition, do you want me to read out the, yeah. So in addition, the representative from Europe has proposed a new recommendation under agenda item 32, which reads as follows. The Animals Committee agrees that the request for information on songbirds in decision 19.191.b should be included in the notification to the parties envisaged in decision 19.192.a and be included in the report to the 35th meeting of the Animals Committee. The question on making the information available on the CITES website in line with decision 20.192B will be revisited at AC 35. So that's it, Chair.
Thank you. Now asking for the floor. So I conclude the agenda item is closed. Thank you. Now we are going to discuss about the conduct that resulting from the intersessional working group. Then we start from AC 34 conduct 1. I would invite the chair to introduce.
Colombia,
Colombia, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. El grupo de trabajo en sesión sobre tiburones y rayas se reunió el martes por la mañana de 9 a aproximadamente 12:20. El grupo estuvo compuesto por los representantes de los 4 miembros regionales, África, Asia, América del Norte y Oceanía, 30 partes observadoras y 18 OIGs y ONGs observadoras, y fue copresidido por la representante de Asia, Xiaoping, y por mí. El grupo de trabajo cumplió el mandato establecido en el documento AC34, DOC 37, Ref 1, párrafo 28. En donde decía revisar las respuestas a la notificación de las partes número 2026-045 y la información de la base de datos de comercio de las CITES sobre el comercio de las Mouranki y redactar recomendaciones que se basen en las recomendaciones previas del Comité de Fauna. El grupo de trabajo no dispuso de una interpretación oficial y 2 partes plantearon esta cuestión, subrayando la necesidad de contar con interpretación en los grupos de trabajo sobre tiburones y rayas, dada la relevancia y sensibilidad de este tema. Este grupo de trabajo brindó una oportunidad para que las partes compartieran aspectos destacados o inquietudes en relación con la implementación de los apéndices de tiburones y rayas. El grupo se centró en recomendaciones prácticas que eviten repetir las recomendaciones anteriores del Comité de Fauna, organizadas en torno a 4 temas. Implementación de las nuevas inclusiones de la COP20 antes de su entrada en vigor en junio de 2027. Datos sobre los dictámenes de extracción no perjudicial y limitaciones de capacidad. Identificación de productos de tiburón procesados en el comercio y transporte de muestras biológicas e introducción procedente del mar. Este grupo de trabajo también acordó una recomendación general, alentando a las partes, OIGs y ONGs, a apoyar a las partes en la implementación de las inclusiones en los apéndices de las CITES y las decisiones sobre tiburones y rayas ya adoptadas por la Conferencia de las Partes. La lista completa de recomendaciones figura en el documento AC34-COM1 presentada a la consideración del comité. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Colombia. Any views from members? Parties? Observer organization? Oh, Mexico, you have the floor.
Sí, gracias, señor presidente. Una de las recomendaciones del documento del informe del grupo de trabajo hace referencia a la organización de talleres. Estuvimos platicando eso en las discusiones. Quedó suficientemente amplio para que quepan muchas cosas ahí, pero la discusión se centró principalmente en la generación de información para elaborar dictámenes de extracción no perjudicial. Quisiéramos poner a consideración del comité que pudiera agregarse algo en esas líneas. Por ejemplo, que quede invitar a la Secretaría, perdón, es el párrafo G del apartado limitaciones en materia de datos y capacidades de los DEMP. Párrafo G. Se le invita a la Secretaría, a las partes y a las partes interesadas pertinentes a organizar talleres regionales. Sugerimos agregar ahí para integrar la información disponible, identificar vacíos y métodos para poder fortalecer la elaboración de dictámenes de extracción no perjudicial. Se puede poner un punto seguido y continuar con el texto. Estos talleres, ya sean en línea, híbridos o presenciales, etc. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you, Mexico. We catch it. Now, Peru, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. Sí, quisiera hacer un aporte en las recomendaciones sobre el transporte de muestras biológicas e introducción procedente del mar. Entonces, ahí en el literal M, ¿no? Ahí está en específico lo referente a introducción procedente del mar, pero con lo que respecta a transporte de muestras biológicas no se ve en la recomendación. Y me parece que esto se debería aclarar o incorporar, ¿no? Un texto en el cual de repente, si es que en la discusión se habló de que hay decisiones que están ya abarcando esta temática, de poner las decisiones que están relacionadas al transporte de muestras biológicas, como, si es que no me equivoco, las decisiones 20.207, ¿no? A la 22.12 y en la que en específico indica sobre transporte de muestras en la decisión 20.208, inciso III, literal B. No sé si eso se podría, para que no quede vacío el transporte de muestras biológicas dentro de esta recomendación.
Thank you. Now I give the floor to Japan.
Thank you very much, Chair. If I may, would it be possible to ask the Secretariat to display the text of the draft recommendations with the changes suggested by our colleagues from Mexico and Peru, so that we are clear on what changes are made? Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Unfortunately, we can't display it, but Secretariat can read carefully, and you can check with the document. So, Secretariat, I will invite to read carefully what the Mexico and Peru, yeah, asking for the additional text on that.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start with paragraph G of AC 34-1, which includes the addition that Mexico requested. So we propose to add the phrase proposed by Mexico at the end of that paragraph. So we'll keep our recommendation as is, and at the end of the sentence, after other relevant institutions, it's to add, in order to integrate available information, identify information gaps, and share methodology to strengthen the making of NDFs. So it would read, in order to integrate available information, comma, identify information gaps, and share methodology to strengthen the making of NDFs. For Peru's request, it's in paragraph M, and also at the end of the recommendation M, after intersessional work on introduction from the sea, it's to propose adding, perhaps comma, including on biological sample transport. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretariat. I don't see any asking the floor. Observer organization? Okay. Secretariat, please read again so we can read clearly.
Thank you, Chair. I'll read it a bit slower. At the end of paragraph G, the addition is, in order to integrate available information, comma, identify information gaps, and share methodology to strengthen the making of NDFs. And at the end of paragraph M, to add comma, including on biological sample transport. Thank you.
Okay, I give the floor to the Central Caribbean and American representative.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Tenemos una consulta específicamente en el punto M, pero no sabemos si es un problema de la traducción a español en el documento. En español se habla de invitar a los responsables del Comité de Fauna en materia de tiburones y rayas a representar al Comité de Fauna en los trabajos entre periodos de sesión del Comité Permanente sobre la introducción procedente del mar. No sabemos quiénes son los responsables del Comité de Fauna en materia de tiburones y rayas. Eso es lo que nos tiene como un poco... ¿Habrá unos responsables nuevos? Eso sería la consulta. No sabemos si es que es un problema de traducción.
Thank you. It is agreed in the work plan. So as a lead for this matter is Ms. Sioge Ping, represent Asia. Daniel Ramadori, Central South America and Caribbean. And Maria Piedad Baptista, alternate Central and South America and Caribbean. So it's written in 7.2 document. Thank you. Okay, now I conclude. The Animal Committee agrees the recommendations in the document SC 34.1 with the amendment read out by the Secretariat. Thank you. Now I close the agenda COM1. Now the agenda COM2. Tortoise and freshwater turtle from Madagascar. I would invite the chair, Nomenclator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The members of the drafting group on Madagascar tortoises met at lunchtime on Tuesday with several representatives of Madagascar participating online. Also, as announced by the chair on Wednesday afternoon, France joined the drafting group. The drafting group made some edits and transfers to the existing recommendations in the Secretariat's document and formulated additional recommendations based on the interventions made in plenary on Monday, which were supported by our Malagasy colleagues. The resulting set of recommendations has been available as AC 34.2, and then we need to make the addition of France in the membership of the drafting group, and the document name needs to be corrected to AC 34.2 at the top of the first page of the English version. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I invite the members. SC 34.2. Parties? Observer organization? Okay. The Animal Committee agrees the recommendations in the document SC 34.2. Thank you. Agenda item 34.3, captive breeding and ranching specimen. I invite represent Africa.
No,
in Europe.
Europe, yeah.
Represent Europe. The floor is yours.
Chair. Actually, I was not prepared to do this, but I try my best to recall. We had the working group on captive bred and ranced specimens, where we had participants from 4 members. We had 40 parties joining the working group and 37 IGOs and NGOs. The mandate was to select a limited number of species country combinations for inclusion in the captive breeding review, always by preparing a brief explanation of the criteria used to justify each selection, to draft general or specific questions for the countries selected for review, and then also to determine and prioritize for which species a consultant review on the biology and threat status is needed to assist the committee then afterwards in the next steps of the review. And the working group was also invited to identify any urgent enforcement matters which need the attention of the Secretariat or the country concerned or the standing committee. And last but not least, also to provide advice on how to refine the methodology for the initial analysis that is carried out by the consultant with respect to the criterion number 7, which is related to the breeding potential of species. And the working group identified a list of 10 candidates that still need agreement by the plenary to be then included in the review of captive breeding. And I don't know if I shall read out all the species. They can be found in the first table in the ComDoc. But I would like to mention that there was one species, which is Goniurosaurus hainanensis, which is a species endemic to Hainan Island in China, where the working group could not reach consensus whether it should be proposed for inclusion in the review. So this is still outstanding. And then we also have a list of 6 species for which the working group advised that it would be beneficial to have a consultant review. They are all also listed in the ComDoc. And then we had a couple of suggestions within the working group regarding urgent enforcement matters. Which I will also not read out one by one, but you can find them in the ComDoc. And yeah, I would also like to invite you to make any amendments if we did not capture everything correctly what was raised on the floor, because it was really quite a number of issues raised. And then finally, the working group also had a short discussion, or let's call it initial discussion, on criterion 7 on the breeding biology. And the conclusion was that, as it is a very complex matter, the working group
would like to ask the Animals Committee to request the Secretariat to issue a notification requesting more elaborated feedback from parties and also from stakeholders on how to improve the methodology for this criterion, and also sharing additional databases that could be used by the consultant to inform this criterion and to apply it more broadly to other taxa than reptiles. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Europe. This has been comprehensive. So I invite the members for the AC COM 3. Nomenclature.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Corresponding to the executive summary this morning, the nomenclature specialist presence or membership in this working group is not included in the report. In addition, I spotted 2 misspellings in scientific names. I'll be happy to just make the Secretariat aware of those for correction. Thank you.
Thank you, nomenclature.
6. It starts with in relation to Table 8. On the second line, we'd like to put a full stop under consideration and continue with the following words. Australia requested that the following list of species in particular be brought to the attention of the Standing Committee, full stop. I'll say that again. It's a change in the second line. We'd like to put a full stop after consideration and continue on. Australia requested that the following list of species in particular be brought to the attention of the Standing Committee, full stop. And then we propose deleting following species and in particular highlights the following species, brackets, in case they were not removed from the list after correction of the table, brackets. I've also provided this text to the Secretariat. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We thank the co-chairs of the working group for their excellent guidance during the working group discussions and in preparing the ComDoc, and we fully support the outcomes. We have a couple of suggestions to make on the ComDoc, if you will permit me to make them. In relation to Euromastix gerii from Niger, we would like to suggest adding the questions in Q1 and Q2 to address the use of different source codes by Niger. These questions relate specifically to the shift in source codes observed in the trade data and the management of mixed production systems. In relation to Euromastix acanthoneurus from Mali, we would like to suggest adding the question in Q1, which again addresses the shift in source codes. In relation to Leucocephala neuroni from the Syrian Arab Republic, we note that the Syrian Arab Republic is not a range state. There are no reported imports. The species is critically endangered and endemic to Indonesia. We agree with the questions to be raised with Syria that have been proposed, but as we aren't clear whether these questions will fully capture the critical information relating to the provenance of the founder stock, we would suggest that they are also requested to provide details of the legal acquisition of breeding stock. We note that in paragraph 4, wider concerns are being raised in relation to trade from Syria, and we agree with the recommendation to refer the cases raised to the Standing Committee for consideration as a potential case under Article 13. We had noted a couple of additional species in trade from Syria where there are questions around captive breeding claims. Specifically, Balaniceps rex, the shoebill, and Amazona mercenaria, the scaly-necked Amazon. And we would like these two species also to be referred to the Standing Committee if the Animals Committee agree. In relation to Balaniceps rex, only 34 specimens held globally according to the zoological database ZIMS. Pairs hatch 2 to 3 chicks, however, the older chick always kills the younger one. There are successful projects in some range states, such as Zambia, that successfully collect and raise the second chick. However, we see no evidence of closed-cycle captive breeding to multiple generations, especially outside range states, and there are no records of trade into Syria. In relation to Amazona mercenaria, we recognise that this species is classed as least concern by the IUCN Red List. However, it appears to be very rare in captivity. Only a single specimen is reported on the zoological database ZIMS. Since 1981, only 28 birds are reported in trade by global exporters, 76 by importers, and there are no records of trade into Syria. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I give the floor to Africa.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. J'ai reçu tout à l'heure une note d'explication du Niger sur Uromatis du Niger. Comme ils n'étaient pas là, je les ai informés sur la combinaison. Donc, ils me demandent de lire ça pour le secrétariat. Il s'agit d'un commerce sur l'espèce, sur des spécimens élevés en captivité avec le code F. Les établissements privés qui élèvent l'espèce sont reconnus officiellement par l'administration forestière du Niger et depuis plus de 3 ans, pour des mesures conservatoires, tout prélèvement de toutes les espèces de faune à des fins commerciales ou de chasse en milieu sauvage est formellement interdit au Niger, compte tenu de la situation actuelle. Depuis plus de 3 ans, il n'y a aucune possibilité de prélèvement d'espèces de faune pour des besoins de commerce ou de chasse. En conclusion, le Niger, si cette espèce, le commerce sur cette espèce au Niger est pratiqué par des éleveurs formellement enregistrés et suivis, et toute forme de fraude est sévèrement punie par les dispositions législatives et réglementaires et dont l'objet de cette répression. Merci.
Thank you, Africa. Thank you. We know the information that provided by Niger and delivered from by the representative of the Africa, and then I come back to UK to make a little bit clarification.
They want to add the two
Especially for the page 6, number 4.
Yeah. Balena Sapp's Rex and Amazona Mercenaria.
Balene Sex and Amazonia Macerania. Are you willing to add this in the end of the text from?
So maybe just at the end, do they want to add it to the list that's in that first paragraph?
Yeah.
That's what we're asking.
UK, we want a clarification whether these two species willing to add it in the end of the species that has been written in number 4.
Yes, I'm saying nodding, yes. Yeah.
Okay, nodding is agreement. Thank you. We will get. Animal Committee agrees the recommendations in the document SE 34, Doc 3 with amendment provided by nomenclature specialists, Australia and UK. Okay. Silent agreement. Thank you. I close the agenda. Yeah, forgive me. We haven't discussed for Coniosaurus hainanensis from Thailand. That's in page 5. Thailand, I give the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Thailand appreciate the discussion on the working group and would like to provide a few additional factual clarifications regarding Coniosaurus hainanensis from the United States on 30 July 2019, before the species was included in CITES Appendix 2. Since that initiate importation, no additional founder stock has been acquired, and all exported specimens have been derived exclusively from this legally acquired founder stock. In 2020, Thai CITES Management Authority inspected the breeding facility and confirmed that the imported founder stock has successfully produced 890 offspring. According to the breeding records, breeding began in 2020. Females produce up to 8 crunches per year, with an average of 2 eggs per crunch, and more than 90% of juveniles survive beyond 2 weeks. The facility currently remains more than 3,000 breeding adults, including more than 1,800 breeding females, giving it the capacity to produce approximately 25,900 captive breed offspring annually. That is fully consistent with the volume of specimens reported in international trade. Thailand therefore confirmed that the exported specimens have been collectively reported under South Code C. Based on this information, Thailand considered that both the legal acquisition of the founder stock and breeding facilities demonstrated capacity to produce captive breed specimens have been clearly established. Thailand respectfully invites the committee to take these facts in the account when considering the species-country combination and hope that it will not be included in the review. Thailand remains ready to provide any additional information to the committee may require. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Thailand. Now we are still discussing on Coniosaurus hainanensis, not other species. So this is one of the species that we have to finish in the plenary. So I would like to invite members regarding the Coniosaurus hainanensis from Thailand. Asia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. During the working group, we couldn't listen enough information, but now, having heard now explanation by Thailand, I do believe we don't need to include this combination for the review. Thank you.
Thank you, Asia. Any other members will take the floor regarding Coniosaurus hainanensis? Europe.
Thank you, Chair. And I would also like to thank Thailand for providing this additional information with regard to the initial breeding stock and also the offspring produced since 2022. So as said, there was no consensus in the working group, and I think it is clear that the species can be bred successfully in captivity. There is also published information out on the captive breeding potential of the species, and it's also known that there are pre-convention stocks of this species existing in non-arranged states. So this is there. I think there is no doubt about that. However, I also had the feeling when listening to the room that there were still some questions remaining open, specifically to the reproductive potential of the species. So it is true that females are capable of having multiple clutches annually, while they cannot produce more than 2 eggs per clutch, and usually the maximum, so 8 clutches per year appears relatively high from my experience, so usually the average is around 3 to 4 eggs, which clutches per year, which, while having that said that, I appreciate that, of course, the breeding potential is really dependent on the keeping conditions and etc. And so I would not rule out that this is the case, but I feel that in this sense, it would be maybe proportionate to still have this information in writing and have some further information on the breeding conditions. And I think it would not put like an undue burden to provide that. So I would like to make a compromise proposal to suggest having this species in the review, but to limit the questions to only 2 of 6 questions that are in the table, and specifically to the questions C1 and C4, to really reduce the burden
on Thailand to provide this information, but I feel that this clarification could also help consumer parties, which may have also stricter domestic measures to fulfill their obligations and allowing them to accept imports of the species with confidence or with more confidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Europe. I think I see two views among the members. I will come back to Thailand. The proposal by Europe to still include in the process, but reduce the scope of the questions. Thailand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so I could give you more information to EU. Thank you.
Again, I will repeat. If you agree the proposal from Europe, so the Coniosaurus hainanensis is still in the process, but the question from the column in the last will be reduced to only C1 to C4. So you just provide
C1 and C4.
Sorry, C1 and C4. So you just can provide not that much information. So you just provide the information regarding this. If you agree with that, then we can finish about the Coniosaurus hainanensis. Thailand.
Thank you, Chair. C1 and C4, right?
Yes.
Okay, agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Concerning Coniosaurus hainanensis from Thailand, committee agree the consensus reached by Thailand and European region. Thank you. Thank you. Now we are in AC 34.4. Review of significant trade in specimen of Appendix 2 species. I invite alternate representative for Europe to give the information of the working group.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to report on behalf of the Working Group on Review of Significant Trade. You'll see from the mandate, we were requested to review the information contained in the annexes to document AC 34.13.3, taking into account any additional information. As in to select a priority list of 12 species country combinations of greatest concern for inclusion in stage 2 of the RST, and a list of 5 or more additional species country combinations that may be included subject to available findings. I can't remember how many members of the working group there were, but they take up a whole page of the ComDoc, so there were a lot of you. But the working group held a very constructive discussion and have agreed a list of 12 species and country combinations for inclusion as a priority. And they are presented in the first table in the ComDoc. And then there is a list of 7 species country combinations in a reserved list, which has been ranked and may be included subject to funding being made available. I won't go through all of the species country combinations because they're in front of you, but I would like to bring your attention to 2 annotated species country combinations. The first one is in the first table and is the first species, Falco cherub from Kyrgyzstan, which the working group agreed could be removed from the list if the Secretariat received documentary evidence to the confirming source of the specimens as reported in trade to be source C. And I believe that documentation it has been requested. The other species country combination was a coral and is at the bottom of the reserve list and is Siderastrea siderea for Honduras, where it was agreed it would also be removed from the reserve list subject to clarification on whether all trade was being reported for scientific purposes. So you may need to come back to that, Chair. Furthermore, the working group agreed additional recommendations and observations on issues raised around reporting discrepancies or anomalies or concerning potential cases of non-compliance. The working group invited the European representative who had highlighted a number of potential non-compliance cases to submit them to the Secretariat to follow up on and then report any issues of concern to the Standing Committee. I believe this has already been submitted and has been made available as ACE, as an information doc, AC 34 Inf Doc 21. And then you will find the other recommendations laid out in the ComDoc. There was a request for clarification from the working group to be sought from the Secretariat on the treatment of countries that have entered reservations under the review of significant trade for future reference. So I bring that to your attention. And then just lastly, I think on behalf of myself and my co-chair, I'd like to thank the Secretariat for your support and all members and observers for their constructive engagement and collaborative spirit during the discussion. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, UK. Then I come to the table. For the first case, Falco cherub from Kyrgyzstan, I would like to invite Secretariat to provide the document that provided by Kyrgyzstan.
Thank you, Chair. The Secretariat has received a response from the Management Authority in Kyrgyzstan, which I would like to read out for your information. Dear colleagues, the Ministry of Natural Resources, Ecology and Technical Supervision of the Kyrgyz Republic, acting as the CITES Management Authority of the Kyrgyz Republic, has received information indicating that the source codes for specimens were not specified in relation to certain CITES permits in the reports previously submitted to the Secretariat. The CITES Management Authority of the Kyrgyz Republic is committed to updating its records by including the appropriate source codes for the relevant permits, and is also prepared to provide scanned copies of these permits to the Secretariat. At present, the Ministry is conducting a nationwide process related to the competitive reallocation of hunting areas in the Kyrgyz Republic, which requires the involvement of the responsible specialists and significant administrative resources. In this regard, we kindly request that the Secretariat allow us additional time to complete the review of the records, update the relevant information, and prepare the scanned copies of the permits. We highly appreciate the Secretariat's understanding and cooperation and remain committed to ensuring the completeness and accuracy of the information submitted under the Convention. So that is the message from the Kyrgyz Republic. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretariat. Then I will give the floor to the members. Hearing the... Okay, Oceania.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure whether we can move on to the next point that was raised by the Chair of the Working Group regarding the coral species from Honduras, or whether we're still on the...
We are still in the Falco chair
on the Falco.
from Kyrgyzstan.
Okay, I'll wait then. Thank you.
Just to note that.
So I need agreement from the committee whether the Falco chair for Kyrgyzstan can be removed from the table. So it means will be replaced. The first priority in the reserve list is Surus Paucus that will be included if the Falco chair will remove. So I need views from the members. Asia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I think based on the email that sent from the Kyrgyzstan to the Secretariat, we think maybe this species should be removed from the list. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Other members? Views? Oh, European.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And we would also like to extend our thanks to Kyrgyzstan for providing this information and for committing to look into it. We do, however, consider that our questions have not really been answered, as the response from Kyrgyzstan does not provide any information on the source of the specimens that were exported. So we're not able to confirm at this point that they were not wild sourced. And if they are wild sourced, we do believe they should remain in the review of significant trade. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I see two views among the members. I give the floor to the parties. Observer organization. UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I am pleased to receive this new information from Kyrgyzstan and a commitment to provide documentary evidence to the Secretariat to sort of confirm the source of the specimens. I think maybe we can leave it in the list for the time being, and then the Secretariat can take the decision once you've received the information and you're satisfied with the evidence provided. It could be removed, and the reserve could be put into the list of 12. I'm not sure whether procedurally how that works, but that seems to be.
Okay. Thank you, UK, for. Asia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wonder, since we have the list of the cases of potential non-compliance raised by the European representative, is that okay to maybe list this species into that list to follow up? Is that a good way forward? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Asia. European, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the various ways forward suggested. We would like to align ourselves with the suggestion by the UK if it is feasibly possible. We think that if Kyrgyzstan comes in with information and it confirms that all the specimens exported were in fact captive bred, we do not, of course, see a need for them to be included in the RST. We are not really sure what the added value of referring them to the Standing Committee as a potential compliance case would be, because if the trade is in wild source, we do think the RST is the right process for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Europe. Now I invite Secretariat to give the explanation how we move forward with this.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The Secretariat is mindful that while Kyrgyzstan has said that they will provide the information, they are asking for more time to provide this information. And the stage that we are at now is deciding the priority list. The list in the table on page 2 are the 12 that will definitely have the detailed reviews conducted for them. Those reviews will start immediately after this meeting. And so Kyrgyzstan will not be in a position to provide that information, so it will take too long for the Secretariat and the Animals Committee to decide whether it should stay in this list. So our suggestion is to have a recommendation, as was suggested by, I think it was the UK, to ask the Secretariat to follow up with Kyrgyzstan on these source codes, but to move it from that priority list, because if it is an issue of just misuse of the source codes, then RST is not really going to help. So our suggestion is to move it to the top of the reserve list, and then to put the first one on the reserve list into the top 12. And so we can follow up with Kyrgyzstan, and if we have additional funding then, and we find that there is an issue, it's at the top of that reserve list. So that is what we would propose as a compromise, and allow Kyrgyzstan, or ensure that the cases that are selected for a review at this point are the true priority cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretariat. European? Okay, noting is agreement. Thank you very much. So I would also others members agreement. Asia?
Yeah, actually, we prefer not to add that at the reserve list, but if the secretary thinks it's a compromise way, maybe we can go forward. But I think because due to the limited fund and limited resources, we should focus on those species that needed to be listed in this list, but not this one. This one, you don't know yet, so it's too early to add the species in the list. So. But if, I don't know, if other members agree, we can also agree. Thank you.
Yeah, the Falco Kyrgyz will move to the reserve list. And of course, the first priority list, Isurus Paukus, will move to the top 12. So that's the consensus or approaching that probably that we can get the agreement for that.
And the Secretariat will follow up.
And of course, the Secretariat will follow up all this information regarding Falco Kyrgyz from Kyrgyzstan. Okay, noting is agreement. Thank you very much.
Africa?
So, Africa, you have the floor.
Je pense que c'est un bon compromis que le secrétariat a proposé et nous souscrivons à ce compromis.
Thank you, Africa. So next, I would like to invite Oceania regarding the Sidarea, Honduras. Oceania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, thank you to the chairs of the working group. They did a cracking job with such a challenging task before them, certainly a task I did not envy. In regards to Siderea for Honduras, which is annotated in the reserve table on page 3, there does appear to be some anomalies in the trade for the species, and the species was identified in the analysis as critically endangered with relatively high reported trade volumes and a notable increase in trade. Therefore, if it's not too much of a burden, I'd like to request the Secretariat to review the apparent trade discrepancies between the CITES trade database and the analysis presented in Annex 1 for the species. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Oceania. Is there any views from other members? Parties? Observer organization? Okay. So regarding Sidestrea Sidaria from Honduras, agreement is a silence agreement. So follow as proposed by the Oceania, Secretariat will follow up with the Honduras regarding this matter. Thank you. So we finished the table. So I would like to everyone to see the recommendations that provide in the two additional recommendation agenda item 13.3. If there's any changes or any suggestions. Europe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and I would like to thank the co-chairs for their excellent work chairing this working group and guiding us through the discussions. We fully support the recommendations from the working group in this section of the report, but would like to make a comment on Gecko Gecko from Thailand, which is on the last page of the ComDoc. In our understanding, the publication of a zero export quota was a condition to not be included in the RST, and we believe this is not fully clear the way it is written now, and therefore would suggest a similar language used in previous similar cases, such as the one for DRC Balearica Regulorum, which had a similar condition to be avoided, to avoid being included at AC 32. So I would suggest using a similar language, which would then read under Gecko Gecko Thailand. The working group agreed not to include this species country combination in the review following Thailand's commitment to the publication of a zero export quota for wild specimens of Gecko Gecko, and then on the CITES website, and then it can continue as it says. I'll read that again. Yes. So this language I'm using is in the summary record of AC 32. So under Gecko Gecko Thailand, it would read the working group agreed not to include this species country combination in the review following Thailand's commitment to the publication of a zero export quota for wild specimens of Gecko Gecko, and then from Gecko Gecko it would continue as it states in the working group report. And then just a final comment on the very last paragraph. I can just confirm that the cases of potential non-compliance were indeed published in InfDoc 21 as mentioned by the co-chair. Thank you.
I would like to invite, thank you, European. I would like to invite Thailand with this additional or changes recommendation. Thailand, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thailand also would like to make a brief comment on the recommendation proposed by the working group under the review of significant threat concerning Gecko Gecko. Yeah, to make it clear that the recommendation applies only to the wild source specimen of Gecko Gecko. Thailand would like to propose a small word change by adding the words wild source specimen of after a zero export quota for. Thank you.
So regarding the gecko from Thailand, we propose the wording. I will read it. The working group agree not to include gecko Thailand in the review following Thailand's commitment to the publication of a zero export quota for wild specimens of the gecko on the CITES website until such time as they share their NDF and quota details with the Secretariat and Chair of the Animal Committee.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, nodding, Thailand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Thailand. I would like to invite Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Australia congratulates you and the UK for expertly co-chairing the working group through some very complex discussions, and of course the Secretariat for capturing the discussions so precisely. Australia remains committed to delivering on its responsibilities for sustainable trade of CITES listed species and will undertake the necessary steps to ensure we meet our obligations under the Convention. However, Australia would like to note our concerns for the inclusion of various species country combinations presented in AC 34 COM4, where parties have indicated positive NDFs are already in place. Furthermore, Australia is concerned that some members of the working group expressed a clear intent to ensure a species country combination for coral be included in the RST during this period. This approach may inadvertently subvert the intent of the process for identifying specific species country combinations where significant trade volumes or trends clearly warrant closer consideration. As identified in Resolution Conf 12.8 Rev Cop 18, the review of significant trade process is intended to ensure that trade in Appendix 2 species is being conducted sustainably and in accordance with Article 4 of the Convention, and to identify remedial action where it is needed, with the ultimate intent of improving the implementation of the Convention. Australia strongly recommends that future efforts to identify relevant species country combinations are focused on those that clearly meet the criteria, represent the greatest threat to species due to unsustainable trade volumes or trends, and provide capacity building opportunities for those parties that would benefit most from receiving assistance to implement the Convention. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. I would like to invite the members. Asia.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder if it's a good time for me to raise that, because I don't have any concern relating to the COP4 document, but we do have some concern related to the IST agenda item. Is this a good time for me to raise this right now?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. Given the challenges we face and the concerns that our region identified in this meeting, we consider there is need to revise the Annex 2 of Resolution 12.8 to provide clearer and more specific guidance. We have two specific suggestions. First, the methodology for the extended analysis is open to subjective interpretation and needs to be discussed and agreed, and then explained and presented in a manner that allows for consistent analysis. Secondly, there are other areas which need to be clarified. For example, instructions in Section 1, Summary Point 1 for any of the 5 most recent years, and in Section 2, extended analysis points 1 and 3, that the definition of the high volume and sharp increase are ambiguous and open to interpretation. So without suggested revisions, it's difficult to ensure consistency in the IST process. We don't know which is the best way forward, but Asia region think this need to be addressed and remain ready to support such an effort. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Asia. Then I give to Ireland.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Asia for that suggestion, which we would suggest would merit discussion at a joint meeting of the two committees following a written document next year, or otherwise at the COP. But that wasn't why we asked for the floor. There are two issues in the document where it's said that the Secretariat will provide clarification subsequently, and that's in relation to the use of source code W for 3 acipensor species, and also in relation to the treatment of species under reservation in the review of significant trade. And we'd just like to clarify how that clarification will be provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Ireland. Okay. Next, Armenia.
Thank you, Chair. As this is the first time Armenia takes the floor, we want to congratulate you on your appointment. We would also appreciate if Armenia's membership could be added in the document. Currently, it's not reflected. Additionally, we would like to suggest to correct the second recommendation concerning acipensor bayeri, where the source code is X introduction from the C, not W. Thank you.
Armenia, for the second suggestion, can you repeat it?
Yes, in the section acipensor SPP, acipensor bayeri, the source code X should be clarified, not W, for acipensor bayeri only, because it's not marine species.
Thank you, Armenia. Then I move to Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Благодарим секретариат рабочую группу за подготовленный документ. Хотели бы уточнить и прояснить в рекомендациях, указанных для Российской Федерации относительно вида кабарги, мускус. На рабочей группе мы обсуждали вопрос, связанный с числами и правильным учетом, соответственно, образцов и килограммов. Данная информация о дублировании была предоставлена в секретариат. Вместе с тем, в данном документе указана рекомендация во второй части о рассмотрении любых вопросов, report any issues of concern to the standing committee. Мы бы хотели уточнить, в чем заключаются эти вопросы, так как на рабочей группе это не обсуждалось, и не имея ясности, мы не можем согласиться с последней формулировкой. Спасибо.
Thank you, Russia, to bring up this. We will knowledge about this. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to express our appreciation to our working group chair for the leadership in this work. Japan has no comment, substantial comment on this topic further, but I'd like to suggest one editorial clarification, which is to add a footnote with asterisk. I will read in the dictation speed. Details of justification criteria, small 1 to small 5, are as defined in Table 2, Annex 1, AC 34, Doc 13.3. I would like to add this clarification note so that the average readers can understand what the high volume or sharp increase means in this table. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. It's noted. Zambia.
Thank you, Chair. Zambia would like to appreciate the work which has been carried out by the working group and the leadership of the chair. We would like to request that we be added as a member of the working group. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Zambia, noted. Thank you. Regarding the adding in the summary record of the in-session working group, we agree Armenia because Armenia requests to add before the in-session working group occurred. But unfortunately, we cannot add the Zambia because it's the request before after the in-session working group has been established. Thank you. Now I give the floor to Oceania.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple of comments which I'd like to put on the record in relation to Tonga and Acanthasteria lordhowensis. I understand that Tonga is currently developing a non-detriment finding for corals and anticipates completing this in the near future for consideration. Also, Fiji has completed a comprehensive NDF, which I spoke about in the working group for its coral trade in 2025. This assessment does incorporate current ecological surveys, species vulnerability assessments, ecological risk analysis, quota evaluations, species-specific export data, and updated management measures. I trust that this expensive body of evidence will adequately demonstrate that Fiji's trade in coral species, including Ulophilia crispa, is sustainable and does not pose a risk to the long-term viability of wild populations. Similarly, Australia has completed a positive NDF for its coral trade. The NDF is publicly available and is supported by robust scientific evidence demonstrating the harvest and trade of coral species are sustainable. The assessment is further supported by a strong regulatory and management framework. I trust this information will clearly demonstrate that trade in Acanthestria lordhowensis is sustainable and is being managed in a manner consistent with the objectives of the Convention. Oceania looks forward to continuing to work closely with the Committee on species country combinations where the available evidence indicate there may be substantive questions regarding the sustainability of trade and where further review is likely to add value, particularly in the context of the ongoing resource constraints under which parties and committees operate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Oceania. We need to wrap up because it will be closed at 5. So there's still one more that we need to discuss. So I will close the list for the request after Congo. Congo, you have the floor.
Costa Rica sería. Sí. Gracias, señor presidente.
Costa Rica.
Agradecemos a la Secretaría y al Grupo de Trabajo por el documento. Costa Rica desea comunicar que el día de ayer enviamos a la Secretaría el documento informativo relacionado al último DEN de tiburones sedosos, que tiene como vigencia del 2025 al 2030. Este documento ya se encuentra publicado como documento informativo número 22. En ese sentido, aprovechamos la palabra para manifestar que deseamos ser retirados de la lista en relación al Carcharinus falciformis, ya que hemos venido, como lo hemos externado en el grupo, realizando acciones de manera progresiva sobre los tiburones y en específico sobre esta especie de tiburón sedoso. Vemos la importancia de reiterar las medidas de carácter vinculante relacionadas a la conservación y uso sostenible de tiburones en el marco de las organizaciones regionales de ordenamiento pesquero. En particular, la resolución de la Comisión Interamericana del Atún Tropical, la C-2509, de tiburón sedoso, que enmienda y reemplaza la C-2308, debido a la especificidad y mejora en relación a las medidas de conservación y uso sostenible. De igual manera, la resolución 2508, que habla de tiburones de manera general y enmienda y reemplaza a la C-2405. Contamos con normativas igual a nivel nacional, la AJDIP 38-2026, que prohíbe en el Caribe de Costa Rica, que es las pesquerías del Caribe de Costa Rica, que las especies de tiburón sedoso que son capturadas en la zona económica exclusiva, es prohibido la comercialización a nivel internacional en el marco de la resolución de las recomendaciones de la Comisión del Atlántico. Aunado a lo anterior, manifestamos que a pesar de nuestros desafíos por limitaciones de recurso humano y financiero, hemos venido cumpliendo con la Convención. Estamos anuentes a ampliar detalles de todas estas acciones y más que estamos realizando por si alguna parte así lo considera. Gracias, presidente.
Thank you, Costa Rica. I give the views from the members. No. Okay, while we are now gathering all the information and recording the discussion during the plenary for AC 34.5, now AC 4. Now, parallelly, I would like to move forward to AC 34.5. I would like to invite
Secretariat.
I would like to invite Secretariat to introduce the result from the small drafting group.
Thank you, Chair. AC 34.5 is on Saiga Antelope, Saiga SPP. There was a small drafting group that met in the evening yesterday, which consists of the representatives for Asia, Ms. Ping and Ms. Terada, as well as the alternate representative of Asia, Mr. Tan, and the representative for Europe, Ms. Ockerman, and the Secretariat. The mandate was to prepare draft recommendations to the Standing Committee based on the comments made in plenary by the representatives for Asia and Europe for the Considerations of Animals Committee. The three recommendations can be found in COM 5, and they consist of an invitation to Kazakhstan and other range states, as well as an invitation to the Secretariat for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. AC 34.5 members. Okay. Parties. Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Мы хотели бы вернуться к предыдущему документу, так как у нас нет ясных...
Russian Federation, we are now catching all that you raised in the previous. Now we are drafting. Then we will come back again after that. So we are now in the SC 34.5.
Спасибо. Хорошо.
Thank you.
К данному документу у нас вопросов нет. Спасибо.
Thank you, Russian Federation. Tanzania.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is minor editorial on the first proposed recommendation. It's just to add the Saiga range states in the first line. Invite Kazakhstan and other Saiga range states, because it's just written range state, which is not clear.
Thank you, Tanzania. Noted. And you ask the floor for SD 34.5. The Animal Committee agree the recommendation document AC 34.5 with amendment provided by Tanzania. Thank you. May I apologize? I would like to ask interpreter for extend 10 minutes. Is it okay? Thank you very much. Thank you. Regarding asking floor from the Russian Federation, I would invite the Secretariat to provide the information.
Yes, thank you to the Russian Federation. We can acknowledge that the Secretariat has received information from the Russian Federation, but we only received it during this meeting, so we have not had sufficient time to review the information that we have received. So we recommend, the recommendation will stay as it is, and the Secretariat will liaise bilaterally with the Russian Federation on the information that you have sent us, and we will seek clarifications if necessary. I hope that is clear.
Thank you, Secretariat. Concerning AC 34.4, the AC agrees the recommendation in document AC 34.4 with the following amendment. Addition of Armenia to the list of the parties. Amend the recommendation on Kiko Thailand as read out by Chair. Add explanatory note on the criteria above the table on the page 2. Swap Falco Cherok, Kyrgyzstan from the priority table on page 2 with Isurus Paukus, Sri Lanka from the table on page 3. Invite Secretariat to prepare clarification on the handling of the reservation in review significant trade and source code concerning AC Penser SPP to be presented at AC 35. Invite the Secretariat to follow up with the Kyrgyzstan concerning Falco Seruk and Honduras concerning CITES. Rastrea Siderea.
Yeah, I think there's something in the comments. So scroll down. Sorry.
The comment made by the representative of Asia and Oceania and Australia will be noted in the summary record. And request from the Costa Rica to remove from the process. We have no agreement from the members of committee. European.
Thank you, Chair. So we highly appreciate the commitment by Costa Rica to sustainable fishery and efforts to conservation for the silky shark, including regional cooperation and engagement with RFMOs. However, as discussed in the working group, we still note that there has not been sufficient time to review the updated information just provided by Costa Rica. While previously published NDFs showed increasing catch rates, decreasing size of landed specimens, and a lack of information on biological reference data and other biological aspects, such as fishing mortality. Which is why we suggest to still include it in the process to allow the Animals Committee to review the new NDF for export of silky sharks from Costa Rica. And we think that the RST process will allow a good opportunity to improve the sustainable fishery and trade in silky sharks from Costa Rica in line with the comprehensive action already undertaken and that we highly endorse and appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Europe. Asia?
Thank you, Chair. We want to know the clarification on the reservation. For the reservation in review of significant trade reviews will go to the summary record, right? No?
It will be.
Yeah. So it will be in the summary record, but we will come back discussion in the AC35.
Okay, thank you so much.
Concerning accipenser SPP, add the source code X after source code W. And also the additional amendment that will be resolved. I would like to agreement from the committee whether we can close this item agenda because it has been 10 minutes. Okay. Thank you, committee. The agenda item AC34.5 is closed with the some amendment that has been read out. Come for. Now I give the floor to the Secretariat for any housekeeping information.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies to the interpreters. Just a quick announcement. Please disregard the CTSP meeting that was mistakenly announced on the side event list for tomorrow at midday, as this is a closed meeting of the CTSP with the beneficiary countries to discuss their project proposals. Our apologies for any inconvenience. And thanks again to the interpreters for your understanding. Yes, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. With the agenda AC34.5, we close the agenda item for today, and we will meet again tomorrow.